Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a wonderful opportunity to speak with such energetic folks. I got a chance to meet some of you in person and perhaps interact with all of you yesterday. And I was really feeling great about the energy and I would say the enthusiasm to solve problems that you had in your. So I would like to start by first getting connected with the previous two performances that we had. And I think after the two performances, all of us would probably feel a bit light. We'll feel like a feather. So actually I got a feather in front of me, and that actually relates with how when we solve problems, how do we feel? And what is the mindset when we're trying to build something? So in the beginning, we are all like a feather, and when we like like a feather, as light as a feather, when we drop it, we don't know whether this feather is going to fall on the red carpet or whether it is going to fall on the pool of mud. All we know is that we are here to do something, and we are here to solve a problem that we can solve while we are working on what we are doing on a day-to-day basis. So what differentiates a problem solver and what differentiates a person who is interested in contributing back from the rest? And I think that's a very simple, there's a very simple thought behind it. When you see a stone, a person who's trying to solve a problem, he sees a sculpture inside a stone. He's able to find that he can do something with that stone. He can make it into a sculpture. So, what are the things that we need to do for doing that? The first thing we do is we have to remove the unwanted pieces. We have to take decisions on how the aesthetics of it looks. We have to take decisions on how the measurements have to be aligned. And this is exactly what we do on a day to day basis. We try and come with the mindset of having all the thoughts being aligned at one given point of time, whether it is understanding the requirements, whether it is understanding the design aspects, whether it is understanding the development and implementation aspects, and finally, the most important thing, it starts from the users, understanding the user. So we have to get and we have to imbibe all these lessons at one point of time whenever we are trying to initiate something, and do it such that we have all these thoughts together at a single frame. So it's like using lots and lots of video frames and trying to club them together. So I'll be talking about what are the specific things, what are the notes that would be useful, if it is useful, from the field, and I'd like to share some ideas on what are the things that really helps us solve a problem. Because if you're talking about entrepreneurship, you're talking about project-based learning, you're talking about doing something, it all starts in the heart. And the heart really knows where you need to think and where you need to apply your mindset. So the first thing that all of us have to do before we start a problem is think about taking certain decisions. All of you are over here, that's a decision you have made. You had your breakfast, that's a decision. So these are like simple decision steps. You have to do that when you're starting a problem. And many a times, when we're trying to start a problem, we have to think like this, that there are two states of mind. One state of mind is when we're trying to satisfy our heart, and the other is when the heart is satisfied and we're trying to take a decision from it. So we need to understand these two interesting states of mind. When we take decisions for satisfying our heart, we at times land up on a pool of mud. And when we try to take decisions from a satisfied mind, from a mind which is calm, which has the potential to contribute back, and which has the potential to really think a bit of all the folks around us, of the environment, of the nature. And nature does not just include the community and the trees and the rivers and the animals and I would say the personal health, which allows us to do the things on a day-to-day basis. It is also spiritual. So I feel that when we are able to connect with all these things together and we are able to take simple initiatives, initiatives that impact the immediate environment around us, or perhaps not so immediate environment also. In both these cases, we are able to think aloud, we are able to think from our gut, we are able to think from our mind, we are able to think from our soul, and we are able to do those things. So the first step is about decision making that we all need to understand and we need to think about. The second thing is when we start doing something, there are two feelings that come up. One is the feeling of love, and the other is the feeling of attachment. And there's a very interesting, lot of us, we tend to think that love and attachment are interchangeable, which means that they go hand in hand. I think there is a subtle difference between the both of them. What love does, it brings us towards nature. And what attachment does at times, it takes us away from nature. So, what I would really like to share is that when you're trying to do something, do keep in mind that you are also sacrificing something for doing that. It can be as small a sacrifice it is, but big and small is a relative thing. So I would say whenever you're trying to do something, try and think aloud in your mind that are you attached with something or are you in love with something? So that's the second thing. The third thing is about education. And I think all of us are students over here. I think we are all our students at any given point of time, right? So there's nothing called as, if you're learning, we are students. And if you're not learning, I don't know what the name for that is, but surely it's better to learn at any given point of time. So if you're talking of education, and there were some very interesting questions that were asked to me yesterday. It was about, like, we are living in a competitive environment. How do we think about education? So there were three, four thoughts, and there were three, four notes that came to my mind. And I thought I'll share that with you today. The first is about the focus towards excellence and the focus towards dominance. So there is a very subtle difference between both of them. I used to be a very good academic performer during my undergraduate days. Should not boast about it, but yeah. So there were feelings of, I should say, there were two feelings. One was the feeling of excellence, and the other was perhaps, which I was able to avoid because of good peer group, was the feeling of dominance. So what happens in dominance and excellence is that when you're trying to excel, you don't have to dominate. But a dominant person, I mean, who's trying to dominate a particular group or particular community, that person can never excel. A person who is pursuing excellence would never ever feel the need of dominating a group, would ever never feel the need of pushing a software or a technology on a certain group. And this is exactly what I wish to get started with, that there are two aspects of design. One is a human centric aspect, which means you start with the user and you start learning from there. And then you develop something, iterate with the user, and then come back and see what you have done. Again, evaluate, and then do it again. So one is this whole process of human centric design, which works with human beings. And the other is like you are sitting in a cave, or perhaps you are working with people and you have some thoughts and you wish to express that in terms of software. I mean, software is what I understand. There could be many other ways. I think music, dances, there are different forms of expression, but I'll probably contextualize my discussion in reference to what I do. So when you're trying to do these things, think about you and the user in the same vein. If you're trying to do something and you're disconnected with the person, you would not be able to do it properly. And you would need a lot of, I would say, you will be trying to push the things instead of pull the things towards you. So that's a very key difference that I really felt during the initiatives. The next thing that a lot of us think at education, when we're pursuing education, is what should be our next step? What is the next promotion that we should have? Whether we should go for higher studies, whether we should go for job, whether we should go for entrepreneurship, or whether we should do something else in social services, in different segments of society. I think when we're trying to think about the next promotion during student life, it's also important on our front to think a bit about ourselves, to learn a bit about ourselves. We could learn it from friends. I think the peer groups with whom you are right now, they probably know you from different aspects, from different angles. So perhaps their feedback would be great. But besides this, if you're able to resolve your internal mindset, you're able to conceptualize what kind of things you would be able to do even when you are sick, even when you're not well, that really helps you get the tempo up and right when you are down. So I would say that when you're trying to take these decisions, coming back to the first point of taking decisions, that when you're trying to do things, when you're trying to learn, think with an open heart, but also think with the peer group that you're having. Because your peer group, your teachers, they absolutely know what is going in your mind. They see you on a day-to-day basis, and when you meet someone on a day-to-day basis, that's the place where you would be able to really contribute and learn. The other thing that disturbs a lot of folks at the higher educational level is that a lot of their needs are not fulfilled. They feel that they're missing something, either in terms of teachers, in terms of future aspirations, in terms of awareness, in terms of things like it could be anything. It could be fear. And by the way, fear is not, I think it's like the seed for causing a lot of wrong things in our society. So I would say that fear at times is by design there, but you can always remove that also. I mean, you can bring yourself up to speed on getting the right spirit. So I would say that when you're trying to do these set of things, what are the thoughts that you should be thinking about? What are the beliefs that you should have? I think there's nothing such that you have to always frame your mind all the time. You don't have to constantly talk with yourself. I think the first thing that I learned from my advisors was that get started with something. It could be as simple as maintaining your personal finance or maintaining your budget in a spreadsheet. I come from the spreadsheet world, so I'll talk a bit more about spreadsheets, but start doing something very simple. Have a personal organizer, have a personal academic manager for yourself. Develop something, and it might not be in programming, although I would say in technology industry, the code is your word, the codes are your word, which means that when you're writing something and you're demonstrating it in your application, that is what speaks louder than anything, than any marketing or promotion. The other is being able to distinguish between what the needs of the users are, between what your needs are, and what your wants are. What happens at times is that we try and think about that, okay, I want this. So I'll give you an example. Sometime back, I was I generally don't follow stand-up comedians, but I got a chance to follow one of them. He was coming to his old college, and a lot of his peer group friends, they all said that okay, let's donate some amount to the college. And he said the university had lots of funds, and they asked he asked out of curiosity that why do you need funding from the alumni. And they said that we don't need your funding, we just want it. So the point is that at times you have to understand the difference between what you need and what you want. And when you have some very clear ideas of what you need, you would be able to take decisions which would actually have an impact. And there's one thing very simple in life that I've seen and I really wish to share. And that is that when you don't think too much, when you start doing things, thinking that you are doing it not because of any success or failure, but because you are doing it because you are a human being and you have to express yourself, you have a creative urge and that creative urge has to be expressed, then you would end up doing very big things. You will not have to measure yourself in any particular channel or any particular platform. And you don't have to compete with others in that sense. Because you would be competing with yourself, with how you would be learning, how you would be demonstrating a particular thing with a set of peer groups, with customers, like in our case, with lots and lots of community members, or with your teachers, with, I would say, with the local community in general. This brings me to another point, which was there were like some wonderful set of questions on that segment yesterday, and the question was, how do we get started? How do we get going with doing something? I think the way we get started is on a very simple note. Do what is needed to be done at any given point of time. Do not try and change tracks suddenly. Do not have those shifts. I mean, try and do what you are doing. Be satisfied with what you are doing. Be at peace with yourself. Understand what are your internal and external disputes. Understand what is the environment around you, and try and gather that at one point. And just keep doing what you are doing. If you're doing what you are doing in a right sense, you would automatically find the right channel. You would not have to try out multiple things and then find out your interest. This actually brings us with another, like a very common question that all of us have during during this age, and that is that we have lots and lots of options available. So what should we do? I mean, what is the thing that we should be doing? Because a lot of options are equally they have good capabilities in all fronts. I mean, a lot of options that are available to us, and we tend to think that what is the single most option that we should pick. I think the single most option is already known to our heart, and our heart knows that this is exactly where you would be able to contribute for the rest of your life. when you are like looking at different options, there's something that really works with your heart. Surely it can be a couple of choices in the beginning. They might be a bit interrelated or might be disjoint, but the heart really knows that. And I would say listen to your heart and your soul and develop a set of interests where you can really contribute back. If you're able to contribute back on the things you are doing on a day-to-day basis, you would yourself find the meaning. In reference to running, so this actually brings up to the next question that was there yesterday, which was in reference to running a company, how do we structure ourselves? So I think do not start with companies straight away, start with projects. Try and solve problems. Try and work with the community. Learn from there. Once you learn from there, you would automatically find the next direction. And this is true for all kinds of things. If you're going for further studies, if you're going for a job, you have to do things on a day-to-day basis and you have to address the need, because if you're able to address the need, that is how you survive and grow. So finally, I would like to share one last point, and that is in reference to the business models, because coming from the business side of things, it is always like a common question that what kind of things we can do over here. And I think there were 3, 4 things that came straight away when I was talking with Anuj, when I was talking with a lot of folks, and I was talking with Hari, and we were just having a general chat, and also with a lot of students yesterday. I felt that doing something for the environment while we are over here in such a wonderful campus, in such a wonderful zone, I think that's the way you get started. If you want to do something in biotechnology, like there were a lot of folks from biotechnology who wanted to do something, personalized medicine is an area you could look for. It's definitely something that would interest you and you would be able to make a difference with very limited resources. You would not need too much backup from different places and you would be able to do it independently. The second was in reference to civil, what should we do? So in reference to civil, you can try and bring the CAD tools to the cloud. There's an interesting movement around that. The design tools are needed on the internet. So try and do that. I mean, that's a very simple problem to solve. With all the web services available, that is something which can be done. And how does computer science folks comes into the picture? I mean, that's where I come from. So I think computer sciences folks have to really think and work with a lot of people and try and solve problems who have that functional expertise. Because developing a functional expertise takes time, and you can only develop something when you have been using something similar for some time. I mean, just starting out is more like, okay, you would have this, the learning centric design of it. So if you go from learning centric design to human centric design, perhaps you will be able to do that. So I think at this point of time, what should be the key thing? There are 3 things that you should do. One is learn a bit about yourself. Try and understand what motivates you, what demotivates you. The second thing is try and work on some real problems. See what can be done in reference to that. And the third is be a caring guy, be a good guy. If you are a good person, you would be able to find the meaning in your life. Thank you.